Hi guys, James at Goddard Radio Moscow Beer and Metal Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, this is going to be my very last review that I'm filming for you from Auckland in New Zealand, but we're going to go back over to Queensland in Australia for this one and do a beer that comes to you from the city of Brisbane. So we're going to do a beer from Newstead Brewing Company, who are from the Newstead district in Brisbane, and this is their 21 feet 7 inches porter, and this is meant to be a really nice little brew pub. I didn't have time to go up and visit it when I was actually in Brisbane, but hopefully I'll get to go back there in the future and have a little look at this. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews, then I'll take you through a very short history of the brewery, just a minute or two long, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, feel free to fast forward. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do from these guys in the near future. So anyway, Newstead Brewing Company are based in a 1940s steel warehouse in the Newstead district of Melbourne. Now the warehouse was transformed into the Dodgett Street studio in the 1980s before it was actually taken over by Newstead Brewing, and apparently they've done very little to spruce it up since they actually moved in there, other than adding the brewing equipment, so they say shiny tanks and a few bits of furniture and things like that. But Newstead Brewing was established by Peter, Heather and Mark Howes along with Michael Conrad. Now Michael had previously run many different venues, while Peter and Heather had actually owned their own HR business, which they later sold to a global brand. And Mark just likes beer, but he does have a PhD in molecular bioscience and a certificate in brewing, so he's the head brewer of the operation there. But he blames his love of beer on his wife for buying him a home brewing kit and then sending him towards becoming a brewer, so he blamed his wife for that one, which is quite funny. But he's assisted by Gavin and Jarrett, and Gavin is actually well known in the craft beer circuit in Brisbane, while Jarrett is an avid home brewer. And there are quite a few different little craft beer breweries in Brisbane, and I wish I'd actually got to grab more than two of the Queensland beers. I've not actually been able to pick up that many different Queensland beers to review for you, but I'll see what we can do about that in the future. You know, maybe some people will be nice and send me some or something like that, but I will get back to Queensland and review more of these beers for you in the fairly near future, hopefully. But anyway, that's your kind of brief history of the Newstead Brewing Company. To tell you about the other beers you can get from these guys, they've got the 3/4 time session ale, they've got the main thing golden ale, liquid amber amber ale, out and about pale ale, two to the valley India pale ale, John O'Cider, and this guy here, which is the 21 feet 7 inches porter. So anyway, we'll get on to the tasting of this beer itself. I'm not sure exactly why this is called the 21 feet 7 inches. Maybe that's the height of the building or the width of the building or something like that they're in. I'm not too sure about that, but I'll just bring up the camera, let you have a little quick look at the artwork there. It's a kind of nice sort of classic old style thing, so maybe that's meant to reflect the idea of the fact that they're in a kind of our old building or something like that. It's just a plain bottle cap on this one, but it says on the top here, cool, dark, stealthy, unstoppable, nothing compares really, the stuff of legend. Like the 74 big one, this traditional porter will leave you telling tales and shaking your head in wonder. 21 feet 7 inches porter. It says on the back, murky, silty and black as your hat, chocolate and coffee food flood the palate, toasted malts are the heroes with noble hop, aroma and spice filling the gaps, oozing with cream and smooth beer. This is perfect for quaffs on the river or in it. It's got an IBU of 20, EBC of 420 and an ABV of 5.2%, made in Australia. So there we are. Let's get on with the tasting of this guy then. So as I said, a 5.2% porter from Brisbane. As you can see, a nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, so we'll get this guy out and into the glass. Now, porter beer, I should say, I actually don't drink these beers if I go out into the pubs and things. I'm more of an IPA and kind of pale ale sort of man when I do my session beers. I do like a sort of porter as a tasting beer, if that makes sense, and I've never actually drunk them with desserts. A lot of people say they really like these beers with desserts, but I don't tend to drink them other than for reviewing them, I have to admit, but I do enjoy them, if that makes sense. So anyway, as you can see, it's poured a nice dark rosewood kind of yeah, definitely a sort of rosewood, very dark brown colour. There was about a half finger of a frothy kind of beige head on this one, but it's just, if I put my fingers behind it, as you can see, it's not really transparent actually, but that might just be because it is so dark. If I hold it up to the light, you are getting just a little bit of a kind of ruby edge to it, which is the sort of typical thing you would expect of a porter. Now in terms of the aroma, you're getting a nice kind of sweet chocolatey one. There's a definite kind of element of stone fruit, that sort of dark fruit that you get from this guy, you know, raisins and figs, that kind of thing. But in terms of the aroma, you've definitely got some dark roasted brown sugars. When you swirl it, you're getting a bit of the kind of roasted coffee malt in there too. And there is a little bit of the kind of sweet, kind of milky chocolate coming out. But it's mainly a kind of roasted caramel and dark chocolate aroma. But that said, the fruit is quite prominent as well. You get that on the sort of sharper end of the nose. But it has all the, it has all the typical elements of a porter. Maybe a little bit of vanilla in there as well, a little bit of kind of woody vanilla. But yeah, no, all the typical elements of a porter are in this one. The porter, I always tend to find the porters are one of the more simpler beers to pick up the elements of. I don't know why, but just when I've been reviewing these and stouts over a while, darker beers for me are more easy to pick up the different aromas from. But yeah, a nice roasted caramel malt base, some sweet chocolate, a little bit of vanilla, maybe a little bit of wood as well. But yeah, some raisins and figs, the sort of dark typical stone fruit. But anyway, it's enough about the aroma. We'll get on to actually tasting the guy. So the 21 feet 7 inches stout from Newstead Brewing Company in Newstead in Brisbane. You can see the cat moving about in the back of the video there as well. But cheers. It's actually a very kind of juicy fruity porter, if that makes sense. It's got a very light and very wet mouthfeel to it, this guy. Yeah, very, very light porter. It's not too strong on the bitterness. It's more, it's one of these ones that's just kind of sort of subtle. I don't know if the idea behind this, what they were going for, was a very sessionable porter, and honestly, that's one of the reasons I don't drink the porter beer very much, is because it is a little bit heavier. But I could actually see this being a very sort of easily sessionable porter beer. But yeah, much like the aroma, you've got a nice kind of chocolate, milk chocolate sweetness in this one. There is a little bit of rich kind of roasted brown sugar, but it's a sort of very mild flavoured one, this, and the flavours are all subtle. But it's more like a good blend of flavours, if that makes sense. Nothing really kind of punches its way to the forefront in this one, but it's just a nice blend of flavours, and I do like beers. I like beers that do have a little bit of punchiness, but at the same time, if you can get one that blends together really well, that's equally as good an achievement in my book. But yeah, you've got a nice chocolate sweetness, as I say, just a little bit of that kind of rich roasted brown sugar, but very, very mild, not really kind of sweet cloying, if that makes sense, but you've got a little bit of sweetness from the chocolate, like I said, and there is maybe just a little bit of kind of woody and vanilla character, but at the same time, it is a little bit juicy. It's got a nice, just a little teeny bit of fruit in there, but it's not sharp at all. It's just a nice blend of flavours, and you just pick that up. You get this little oily bubble that comes forward, and you get this little bit of kind of candied or sort of berried fruit, if it makes sense. You're not getting the kind of sharpness that you would expect from the raisins and things like that. Yeah, in the middle of the palate, you're just getting this nice kind of roasted, lightly brown sugar element, but it's a group of flavours that kind of blends together very well. That's the nice thing about this beer. It's nicely sessionable, and I've never come across a porter. I could sit and drink a couple of these quite happily, almost as if in the same kind of manner that you would drink a Dunkel beer from Germany. And this guy definitely has that kind of similar feel. It's nice and light and easily drinkable, actually. But yeah, in the aftertaste, you've just got a little bit of a lingering of the kind of slightly bitter coffee element, but again, it's very, very mild. And you've just got a little bit of that kind of candied and berry fruit there that goes as well, so you've got a really nice taste to this beer. It is more of a mild one, and it actually would be one, I would perhaps say that this probably is a good one if you've never tried porters before, to sort of break you into the style and then gradually move up and get to the sort of more stronger flavoured ones. But I really like this just because of how well blended the flavours are and the fact that it is quite light and sessionable. So in terms of the mouthfeel, I would definitely describe this as being light bodied. Normally a porter to me would be a little bit heavier than this, but I like it because it is quite light bodied. The carbonation is quite light as well. It is quite soft and smooths it out quite a little bit. There maybe it's just a little bit of a creamy mouthfeel to this as well, and that helps bring out the sort of vanilla and kind of woody elements to the flavour that you're getting just in the middle of the tongue there. That kind of blankets the middle of the tongue, and around the edge you're getting a little bit of the coffee. But it's overall this guy just blends together really well, and like I say, I do really like a beer that they can just blend the flavours together really well, and this is an interesting one simply because of how sessionable it would be. It's got a nice wet mouth feel, nice light, slightly little bit of oil in there that brings out the vanilla and the woody character, as I say, and a little bit of that kind of berried fruit as well. But the fruit, I should point out, the fruit is very, very mild. It is more of a malty beer, this one, despite its kind of light and mildness and flavour, but it blends together really well, and that's what I have to admit that I do like about it. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been cool to review another one from Queensland. As I say, quite an interesting porter just because of how sessionable I guess it would be. Hopefully in the near future I can actually review some more of their beers, because I really have quite enjoyed this one. The porter isn't one of my favourite styles, but I do like it every so often, but it's cool to find one that is quite so sessionable. Please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer. It's always interesting to read them, and please let me know some other Queensland beers. I know Green Beacon and Burley Heads and stuff like that. You've just seen my Burley Heads review a couple of days ago, but I thank you for watching my beer reviews, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Comment below on this beer, and I will catch you soon with my next beer review, which might be a Japanese one at that point. Cheers.